Vision. As a defense mechanism, some animals have evolved to have incredible eyesight, making them extremely difficult to pursue, especially in the open country they reside in. These animals have tremendous vision. At Best of the West, our vision is accuracy. And whether it's across a canyon,
the sheep had no idea we were there,
or a vast desert flat,
652.
We have closed the gap with our custom rifle systems.
I was actually the guide for this hunt. A good friend John Fear from Big Piney, Wyoming was the hunter. You know, once you're at the trailhead, there's really no going back. You've got to have all your gear for 10 days right there with you, ready to pack on, whether it's the horses or the mules. We've done this enough times that we pretty much have a good handle on what's required for this type of excursion. I was very fortunate that J.R. Ramsey also came on this hunt as a wrangler, and he had his string of horses. I had my string of horses and mules, and we were ready to go into the backcountry. We knew once we harvested a ram, we had more than enough animals to load that ram up and ride out. You know, going into this type of country, I keep real close tabs on the weather, but you have to be prepared for the worst. We use a ridgeline trail to access this country. And with about 6 inches of snow and 20+ mile-an-hour wind, that trail closes for the year. So you've got to figure out, where can I camp that I've got an escape route down into lower country and can ultimately come out to a different trailhead, because I knew we weren't going out the same trail we came in if we got significant snow. You know, this area is very remote. You're in grizzly country. Just being that remote, it makes you think twice before you do something. You can't afford to do anything stupid, careless, that sort of thing. Stay tuned for more adventures high in the Absaroka Mountains.
The Best of the West is brought to you by the Wild Sheep Foundation, Cryptek Camo, Hawkins Precision, Polestar Outdoors, Hornady, Accurate, Deadly, Dependable, Huskamaw Optics, and LongRangeStore.com. Pronghorn for American antelope, known for its acute vision and sheer speed. When a buck's testosterone levels drop after the rut, other hormones signal the outer sheath of horn to loosen from the core and fall off. This leaves a bony 4 to 6 inch core with a black rubbery cartilage covering. From this, the new horn is already growing and continues through winter. This means winter conditions determine horn size. The easier the winter and more abundant food supplies, the bigger horns can grow.
Well, we went out looking for some antelope. I had a tag burning a hole in my pocket that I still had to punch. It was a lot of fun running around out in the desert. It's always beautiful country. You're always seeing a lot of animals. That's the good thing about antelope hunting. It's not like you only see one or two, you see herds and herds of them.
We're in the high desert of Wyoming. We got a couple prospects here. We're gonna get a little closer and see what we got here. That's why they call it golfing for antelope. Drive around in your big golf cart and you find one and you put a stock on him. But now we're seeing antelope.
My first antelope hunt was actually when I was very, very young. I watched my mom shoot an antelope and I was so excited that I ran over there as fast as I could, stumbling, fell into the cactus, into a big mess. They were laughing the whole time, got it all cleaned up, went home and got a lot of pieces of cactus pulled out. It was very painful. I learned my lesson to be very, very precise around cactus my whole life. There was a lot of pain involved, but it was one of my earliest memories and most fondest memories. So that's why I like to go antelope hunting, is thinking of my parents. We only really had one day to go on this hunt. Covered a bunch of areas, saw a lot of antelope. All right, we found where all the antelope are. Now we gotta find a buck in one of these bands. It's kind of late in the season, they're losing their sheaths. So now we gotta find one that's got both of them. That's got a little bit of size to him. Good thing we got our Huskamaw binoculars to help pick them out. I'm gonna grab my spotting scope, see what we really got here. Hopefully we'll be off on a walk here soon. We got the right conditions. It's the first time today we have not had crazy wind. $15.28. That is a long poke. Feel like I'm good out to 1,000 yards with this rifle with a lot of practice. So we're going out to see what we can find, see if we get set up on a good shot.
644, 652, call it 650. That's 3 minutes of wind. Wait for them to clear. If you're on them, I'm good.
Hunting isn't always just man versus quarry. More often than not, it's man versus nature and its ever-changing elements. The mountains create their own weather patterns that are far from predictable. You play the hand you're dealt, and when the visibility drops, you might just find yourself playing a few hands sitting at camp.
I prefer hunting later in the season for a number of reasons. I think the ram's capes are in better condition. They're kind of transitioning from that summer to that winter coat. Hunting pressure seems to be less, and the rams have kind of settled down into their normal routines after that opening week. And it's a pretty significant endeavor in that we were in there from 10 to 15 miles. We were very fortunate in that we were hunting rams that I don't believe had been hunted that fall. So that made it a really unique hunt. This is actually the third year in a row that I've been able to go into this area and harvest older mature rams, that 9.5, 10.5, even 12.5-year-old ram 3 years ago.
Nice shot. Nice front shoulder shot reaction.
There's that big notch that you saw. Holy cow.
The other factor up in the Absaroka range is wind. And of course, wind is what spawned the Huskamaw system, the windage number on the turret. That's all part of the field testing that we utilize to ensure that our products exceed beyond our customers' expectations. I typically camp on a very high vantage point where I'm viewing sheep habitat right from camp. There's more time spent on the glass and ultimately finding rams. We're not having to hike up a mountainside to get a view. We're camped right where we can actually sit in lawn chairs and glass and then put our scopes up and try to determine the size of rams. From this particular campsite, 2 years ago, I spotted 22 rams in a day and a half. So I knew this was where we wanted to be, and I'm not the only one that's camped in this location. Right in our camp, you can find chips where the sheep eater Indians used to chip and nap arrowheads, spear points, etc. And we found 50 different chips right at our location. So We're basically hunting the same way that these sheep-eater Indians hunted hundreds of years ago. I typically use a 4-man teepee-style tent where we stake the 4 corners, have a center pole, and this tent is usually very resistant to wind. About the middle of the second night, the wind really started to pick up in velocity. Our tent was just flapping. We were dealing with 60-plus-mile-an-hour gusts.
Is it coming out of the south? Coming from every direction?
The Best of the West is brought to you by the Wild Sheep Foundation, Cryptek Camo, Hawkins Precision, Defiance Custom Actions, Hornady, Accurate, Deadly, Dependable, Huskama Optics, and LongRangeStore.com.
Antelope are the only forked-horned animal that sheds their sheaths each year, so my theory on why they shed so early in the fall is because they don't really need it anymore. After they get done fighting during the rut and everything and all that's over, they don't really need it anymore because they have their speed for getting away from predators. Finding one that had both of them on was kind of a task that day, so we got to look at a lot of antelope, finally found a group that had one. As we kept creeping in, they kind of knew something was up, but we just kept easing along. Then they'd move off a little bit thinking they were out of range, and then we got to a really comfortable spot where I wanted to set up, to within about 650 yards.
That's 3 minutes of wind. Wait for them to clear.
That last one that came up had 1 horn. He was freaking huge. I was praying he had 2, but he only had 1. Sweet. Gotta love that Hunter Elite system. 4 to 16 on it. Absolutely did the job. 650 yards. Q, state of Wyoming. I don't know what he was thinking. He didn't know we had Huskama optics, I guess. Thought he was safe. We gotta go a little farther to get out of our range, that's for sure. Didn't even take a step. Happy with him, 652 yards. Hit him right here, high shoulder. Took him right down. High desert of Wyoming. Just a little guy, he's got a heart-shaped little rack there. He'll eat good. He's nice and young, he'll be yummy. Yeah. That 150 grainer didn't do well for him.
I knew as I set up I wouldn't have much time, and that's where the Huskama advantage comes in. I got the range, dialed it in, figured out what my wind hold was, which was 2 minutes. I knew that it was running 20 miles an hour, so I doubled that number. I was literally ready to take that shot within less than 10 seconds after I got the range. It's that simple. You have everything on your turret. You don't have to pull out a PDA or pull out your phone to get your clicks. Everything is right there on the turret. I grew up eating pronghorn. I've always thought it's good meat. I would say that it's similar to eating mule deer, as long as you don't get a situation where they run a long ways. If you get a good one-shot kill, get the skin off quick and get it right to the cooler, you're good to go. Absolutely.
It's a little bit warm, so we're gonna get right back and get the meat put in nice somewhere nice and cool. And if we're lucky, we might be able to get back for some work. Really good time, successful hunt. Feels really good. Just get it done, you know.
As Shane heads back to the Best of the West headquarters in Cody, Pro Staff Lat Durrance is working out a custom rifle system order with Lance Brewer for his future sheep hunt with Morning Creek Outfitters.
Perfect. I kind of like this spiral fluting as well. It's got more surface area. You see where they cut it out? That's the deep spiral cut, 1.5 turns. It actually drops the weight. You're taking a significant amount of metal off there.
There's more from the Best of the West with custom gun builder Aaron Zachman, who's hard at work fulfilling custom precision rifle orders. Pro Staff Lat Durrance is working out a custom rifle system order with Lance Brewer for his future sheep hunt with Morning Creek Outfitters.
Lance bought the Wyoming governor's tag. So he's going hunting this fall with John Porter. So you got, yeah, well, you might want that.
I think I might.
That is the #1 leading hunting optic in the world. Right there. I've got one with a 5 to 30 on it. Let me show you. Actually, this particular setup, you see that level there at the bottom at 6 o'clock? Perfect. I kind of like this spiral fluting as well. It's actually, it's got more surface area. You see where they cut it out? That's the deep spiral cut, 1.5 turns. It actually drops the weight. You're taking a significant amount of metal off there. It cools a little faster, better than the regular stainless steel barrel. Not quite as fast as the carbon fiber, but somewhere in the middle there. You're good for 6 to 8 shots of repeatable accuracy before it's going to start warming up.
I'd like it just like that. That's your signature edition? Is
that's the Best of the West Signature Series edition.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
So I can shoot this factory ammunition.
Hornady ELDX bullet, extreme low drag, expanding. We've had such great results with that. You get as much hydrostatic shock as any bullet out there, and you've got the added bonus of the back half of it holding together for penetration. It really is the best bullet in the modern hunting market.
All right, that's what I want right there then. I'd like to shoot a 300 Winnie, and it'll shoot the wings off and out at 100 paces, huh?
Well, I bet it'll take the biggest elk you can find in Wyoming out to 1,200 yards and in. It'll do that. Well, thank you, sir. And now you're going to have the best equipment in the industry. This will work good for you.
As Lat finishes up the order,
650.
Shane is heading back to Cody from his successful morning hunt in the desert.
Well, I got my antelope hunt done a little bit too early in the day, so now I got to go back to work.
Hey, there's somebody on the phone that wants to order a new rifle.
Best of the West, this is Shane. How can I help you? Let's get into the scope here for you. 5 to 30. Oh yeah, that's the biggest, baddest we got. That's the one you want, absolutely, sir. And the spiral fluting, well, of course.
Let's head into the machine shop with custom gun builder Aaron Zachman, who's hard at work fulfilling custom precision rifle orders.
I've been shooting my entire life, and I've been machining since the late 80s, manufacturing rifles for over 3 years now, so this is a natural fit. So we receive our barrels from the manufacturer non-fluted. They come pre-contoured, and they leave it up to us to put the fluting, whichever fluting style we decide to use. We've got a deep spiral flute that a lot of customers are leaning towards. It's a deep, aggressive spiral flute. Some of the guys really like that. We put that on like a number 6, a big heavy barrel. Chuck is rotating so we get the twisted flute on there instead of just a straight flute. So it'll make one pass down it'll retract and rotate and start the next flute. Everybody likes a fluted barrel. You know, the days of the straight non-fluted, some people still enjoy it, but probably 99% get a fluted barrel, so we do a lot of them in-house. We got diamond flute, a deep spiral flute, you know, the straight flute we still do as well. These are hunting rifles, you know, it's not a lot of bench rifles, so I like to make them lighter. And they shoot just as well with the fluting as the non-fluted rifle barrels. While I'm doing other things, I'll let this run. I'll go off and, you know, do some painting or some chambering, whatever needs to be done.
The Best of the West is brought to you by the Wild Sheep Foundation, Cryptek Camo, Hawkins Precision, Polestar Outdoors, Hornady, Accurate, Deadly, Dependable, Huskamaw Optics, and LongRangeStore.com.
So one thing we see a lot at gun ranges all over when we're bouncing around doing shooting schools, all kinds of stuff, there are some guys that will bring other guns to our shooting schools with different optics. The biggest problem we see is they can get that rifle zeroed, get it on paper, get it right where they want at 100, 200 yards, and then they go out, they shoot a few different distances, and they come back to 200 yards where they had it zeroed, and their zero's completely off. They might be shooting an inch high or 2 inches low, or a lot of that has to do with the tracking system and a lot of your internal components. Here at Huskamaw, we set up our optics, designed and built them differently as far as the tracking system goes. With this, you get repeatability every time. You can go out, shoot several different distances, come back, as long as your barrel's not smoking hot, I mean, your zero's gonna be on every single time. One thing you hear us say a lot in these product reviews on the show, you hear us say repeatability a lot, or the Huskamaw advantage. To break that down for everybody, you need to be able to track your scope up and down. I mean, you can see us sit here, take these caps off. Lots of people at shows, they don't believe that you can just sit there and crank these knobs all the time, bring them back down, and they're gonna be zeroed at 200 yards. And that's really what repeatability is. And you've gotta have that to have total confidence in taking your gun out of a scabbard that's been bouncing around with a horse for 15 miles in the mountains, or in the back of a buggy bouncing around. You've got to be able to pull that out and have total confidence you can range something, dial it, send it, and hit point of impact right where you want it. That's what gives us the repeatability. That's what we're talking about and mean by repeatability. That's it for this week's product review. We'll see you next week.
We're back in sheep camp, high in the Absaroka Mountains, with Morning Creek Outfitters guide Jim Sessions.
Keeping that elevation where we can see these sheep from a lot of different vantage points. That's the reason we camp on this particular ridge. Does it always work out? The wind in that country can be absolutely relentless, and by wind I'm talking 40 plus miles an hour. The final 2 hours of dark that morning, I had to hold the center post up to keep the tent from collapsing or ripping down the center. You know, it got so bad that we had to evacuate the tent, and we did that. We piled rocks on top of the tent. It was on our sleeping bags, on everything, just holding everything in place. And we dropped off the ridge into the trees and built a fire, waiting for the morning light to come. Just those kind of events weigh heavily on you. It becomes very hard on horses, on equipment, everything, but you just have to kind of burrow in and let it pass over and then start your hunt again. As soon as it got daylight, we knew we had to move. We'd already scouted out a location about 100 yards down off the ridge into the trees where we'd flattened out a spot, dug out a spot. You know, anybody that's been on this type of hunt understands the basic necessities that you appreciate so much up on the mountain, but you take for granted down in wherever you live. A hot cup of coffee, a breakfast burrito that you can just throw into the coals of a fire. 10 minutes later, after turning a couple times, you've got a hot breakfast burrito. And what it does is it prepares you for a long day in the field. You know, you have a couple cups of coffee, some good food, and you're ready to go into the field for a day and hunt effectively. That's an integral part of being successful on a high mountain hunt like this. You know, this is the third hunt that I've done in this particular area. All of them have been successful. This hunt, we had our share of trials and tribulations. We had weather issues. The rams kind of hunkered down. We were having a hard time locating rams, and we couldn't spot them from our location, so we had to get out, branch out, and get in on different ridges and things and glass into the deeper drainages where these rams seek shelter. So we knew the ram we wanted to kill was in this area. We kept at it, we just kept pounding it.
Coming up on the Best of the West.
We gotta decide.
We're back at the Best of the West headquarters in Cody, Wyoming, building precision custom rifle systems.
Got another rifle build coming up. We've got a carbon fiber barreled 7 mag. So I'll just take all the parts required for the build and take them over here to the lathe, and we'll get started on this. Yeah, this is the side port brake. We're gonna go with the side port brake, and that's what they asked for. And we've got a carbon fiber proof research barrel. And this is a Defiance action. These are made in Columbia Falls, Montana. We have them made to our specs. You can see the nice Best of the West logo on here. Super smooth actions. We also have a jewel trigger that we'll be installing in this rifle. We've got a Hawkins bottom metal made specifically for us. They're, I believe, out of Colorado. And we use Limb Saver recoil pads. It reduces the recoil greatly. We've got our own carbon fiber stock made to our specs as well. It's perfect shape for hunting and general shooting as well. Nice flat bottom off the bags. It's got flush cups, so you can put a swivel in there, or if you don't, use a sling or anything like that, you've got nothing protruding from it either end of the stock. Nice and light, 22 ounces, I believe, as it is. Have a special chuck mount system on here. It's made in South Dakota. It allows us to, not only can we move the chuck up and down per se, but we can also move the face of it to square up the bore. very time consuming, but ultimately it leads to a better product. So now I've got, looks like 3 tenths. So imagine taking a human hair and slicing it 30 slices, and I was 3 of those slices off. There's no mass production rifle company is going to go to the efforts we do to ensure that the center line of the bore is what we're working off of, and all that really matters is what that bullet's traveling through. So that's our main concern, is making sure that the barrel's running straight, even through the muzzle brake. It's super important that that bullet is going to be traveling through the dead center of this bore and this muzzle brake. You know, there's no point in us building a rifle and wondering, you know, if we improved the tolerances and held better standards, would that make our rifles better? We just do it. We're never wondering, geez, you know, maybe we're cutting corners here, because we just don't cut corners. We do it consistent. You know, it takes out the variables. The variables are gone. I've been shooting my entire life, and this is a great place to be, great place to work, and get to do something I really enjoy.
Stay with us for more on the Best of the West. The Best of the West is brought to you by the Wild Sheep Foundation, Cryptek Camo, Hawkins Precision, Defiance Custom Actions, Hornady, Accurate, Deadly, Dependable, Huskama Optics, and LongRangeStore.com.
We're out here gathering data on this nice, warm winter day. Single digits, small breeze, life is good. One of the first things you want to do when you're gathering data is you want to focus this scope to your eye. And the way you do that is you're going to max out your parallax on the side, you're going to max out your power up on the top. And then what you want to do is just kind of pick the gun up and you're going to focus. What you will do is inside your crosshairs are going to be a little blurry and stuff, so all you're going to do is turn this until your crosshairs come into a nice, sharp focus. Go by it just a little bit, bring it back. When these crosshairs are nice and sharp to your eye in here, you're set. You don't have to mess with this again. And then all you need to do after that, the rest of the time, is just move the parallax adjustment back and forth, and that's it. This is focused, it stays like that, it's adjusted to your eye, and you don't want to mess with it anymore after that. Got it.
For more information about the products and gear used in today's show, please visit LongRangeStore.com or call 1-866-754-7618. Fall in Wyoming, camped at over 10,000 feet, can be an arduous endeavor to say the least. But for most, the views alone are worth the trek.
We got to watch a wildlife spectacle. We saw probably 500 head of elk migrate over the top of this big giant mountain. And there was big herd bulls behind groups of cows, 30 to 50 cows, and they were just pushing their way up this mountain, bugling the whole way. Just a wildlife spectacle that we were able to witness. You know, we were on the 11th, 12th day of this hunt, I believe. We were riding along a ridge line, and I was high up on my horse, and I looked clear across about 1,000 yards, and I spotted a group of 20 ewes and lambs. We backed out, got down out of sight, and I knew this late in the year that there's a good chance that there's going to be some mature rams in the vicinity of this big ewe group. And we snuck over the ridge, and down below us we could see 3 mature rams on the ridge line. Once we determined we had a really good big mature ram, I stayed on the scope watching, and JR and John went down the ridge and tied the horses off. They got back up there, and he would dry fire numerous times on this ram, and we were getting prepared for the shot. It was 660 yard shot. We had a little bit of wind to deal with, 10-mile-an-hour quartering type wind. So we had to deal with some wind on this shot, but everything was in place. We felt comfortable with it. The sheep had no idea we were there.
Did John connect on this awesome bighorn ram, or does the search continue? Find out next week here on The Best of the West.